What is going on, you guys? My name is Nick and welcome back to the channel. And today the Teen Wolf movie released on Paramount Plus, so I got some thoughts. Before I get into the actual review, I want to set it up first because I want you guys to understand that going into this movie I was a huge fan of the television show on MTV. In fact, I have the entire complete series right here next to me. And yeah, man, growing up, I was obsessed with this show. I'm not gonna lie, I loved it. I've probably seen it a solid 2 or 3 times, which doesn't sound like a lot when people talk about rewatching shows, especially when it comes to shows like The Office. I know people that have seen it at least 12 times all the way through. For me, I don't really rewatch a whole lot of shows, so 2 to 3 times is a lot for me. I just have so many fond memories watching this show every single, what was it, Thursday night that it would air? I don't remember, honestly. But man, that show had a lot of memories. So did the movie live up to it? Overall, I'd say, yeah, it really fits the mold of what the show was. It kind of has that cringy vibe to it. Like, you could definitely tell that this isn't Oscar award-worthy writing, or even relatively good writing at all, but everyone in this movie commits to what's on the page that it's believable. And since this is on Paramount Plus, they're able to get away with a lot more things than they would if this was on MTV. For instance, there's a lot more blood and violence in this film than there probably ever was in the show. Yes, there's a lot of violence in the show. There are some shots in this movie where my jaw was just genuinely on the floor. I just wasn't expecting that level of gratuity to happen, as well as the constant and, well, not constant, but pretty frequent F-bombs that are dropped. That really caught me off guard, especially the first one, because in MTV's Teen Wolf, literally, you can't do that. I mean, you can barely get away with saying, like, shit, you know, stuff like that, but let alone the F-bomb. And when they said it, it was, it felt so out of character from what the entire show was, but it worked because of who was delivering the line, if that makes sense. Another thing about this movie that I do enjoy is the fact that there's actual stakes in the film, because honestly, going into this movie, I thought it would be like a standard TV film, you know, like a Teen Beach movie, stuff like that, where it's like only an hour and 20 minutes, maybe even shorter. But this movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes, and that's such a relief to me. And like, my big worry, if it was going to be an hour and 20 minutes, was that we were going to spend over half of the time following like Scott and Lydia, our main characters, assembling everybody, kind of like getting the Avengers together in the first Avengers movie, the way they kind of wrap that up in the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes of the movie. My worry was that Teen Wolf would do that in their film with their hour and 20 minute movie, and they would just spend the entire time doing that, and then they'd just have one big anticlimactic final battle. But thankfully that doesn't happen. In fact, a lot of the time of this movie, the characters are already together. Sure, at the very beginning we have to get everyone to Beacon Hills to be together, but once that happens, and it happens fairly quick, it's pretty engaging, at least to me as a TV viewer. And I think that's where this is really gonna fall flat for a lot of people. I think if you are a big fan of the show like I am, you're going to really enjoy this movie. You're going to get a lot out of it. Granted, it's not the best writing, not the best direction. Hell, a lot of the VFX are terrible, like awful, and that might throw a lot of new viewers off, but if you've seen the show, you know that's kind of how it's always been. And like, a lot of the stuff that pertains to the villains, there are a few different ones in this film that are from the show specifically, that even me as a big fan of the original show, I was a little, not confused, but I just forgot how these villains worked and what they specifically do. So if I was confused, and I've seen the entire series, I've already experienced multiple years with these characters and these villains in particular, how are new viewers gonna feel about it? And I will say, the new cast, there's 2 mainly new people, and I say that because one of the 2 people just gets sidelined extremely hard throughout the entire movie, but Derek Sun is the one who kind of gets the most time in the spotlight when it comes to the new characters. And I will say, his struggle in particular in this film, it was very compelling, and I liked that they didn't wrap it up immediately. I thought they were going to do that. It was going in that specific direction, but then they managed to stretch it out a little bit, which was very satisfying as a viewer. But I do think there are a lot of characters in this movie, like from the original show even, that are sidelined. For example, I think Liam really got sidelined pretty hard in this film, even though it opens with him, as well as Jackson. He's really only there just to kind of be the personality he was in the original show. He doesn't get any sort of time in the action. But by far my most favorite characters in this film was, of course, Scott McCall, but Allison, what they did with her was amazing. Is it the most thought-provoking thing in the world? No, but it was really interesting to see what happened between Scott and Allison. I believe it was in season 3. I don't want to spoil the show if you haven't seen it, but what happens between those two kind of gets brought back into the fold in this film, and it's kind of juxtaposed a little bit. I don't want to talk too much about it. You'll see what I mean once you see the film. They make it explicitly clear what I'm talking about. Overall, I had a really good time with the Teen Wolf movie, mainly because I was a big fan of the show. I kind of let a lot of the technical aspects just kind of go away just because of how much of a fan I am of the show, and I don't want my bias to affect it. So if I really want to critique the film, I will say the story is pretty redundant. We've seen a lot of the things that they're doing in this already. Thankfully, the finale is a little different from what we've seen in the past, and it does have an emotional punch at the end that I was really looking for, and it did follow through with that. But overall, the screenplay, they could have spent a little more time in the shed working on this, developing the story out a little bit more, specifically fleshing out characters that are sidelined, like Jackson, like Liam, and there's even a few others that aren't really doing a whole lot in here, other than just to be there on screen, mainly, in my opinion, to cover up the fact that Styles isn't there. But they do talk about him, and we do learn where he is a little bit, so it's not completely like he's just was never there. But yeah, if you guys are a fan of the TV show, I think you're going to get a lot out of this movie. If you're not a fan of the TV show, if you're new to the universe, you might not have a great time with this one. But what I can say is that I had a pretty good time with it. I am going to give it a 3 out of 5. I would give it higher if I would let my bias affect that, but I can't. I can't do that. I like to kind of be true to critiquing films on this channel and not letting my bias affect it as much as possible. But I would be lying to you if I said I wouldn't watch this movie again. I would totally throw this on and watch it again. It's very entertaining from a fan of the show's perspective, but just as a film critic, it's not. There's nothing really much here. But have you guys seen the Teen Wolf movie that is now on Paramount Plus? And I believe the spin-off show Wolfpack is available as well. I'm gonna have to check that out as well, because I told myself that if I enjoyed the Teen Wolf movie, because going into it, I thought I would fucking hate it. I thought they would just butcher what they did with the original show, and they didn't butcher it. As messy as it was still compelling and interesting to me, at least. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna give Wolfpack a shot. I heard that show's a little shaky. It's more shaky than this movie, which makes me nervous. But we'll see how it is. Have you guys gotten a chance to see it? Feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. And I'm seeing Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool tonight, so I'll see you guys for that review. Take it easy. I'll see you in the next one.